accepted the ownership of Vijay. रशिया के प्रेस के अकॉर्डिंगली मार्क्स की थ्योरी को लगाया, लेकिन कर्नाटक पार्टी का को इसकी पार्टी बनाना है तो एक इस्तीफे देना पड़ेगा, किसी को न्यू इक्वालिटी आया तो आगे दिशा आया समझ में आपको? ये जो मैंने समझाया कि मेरी नेगेटिव इक्वालिटी पॉलिसी ने नया फंडामेंटल चेंज इंट्रोड्यूस किया। अब कहता है स्टेट ऑनरशिप ऑफ द विजिट वाज रिकॉग्नाइज्ड, जमीन का मालिक कौन है? विजिट है। थोड़ा सा चेंज करेंगे, पार्ट्स की थ्योरी में सब ठीक है। विजिट्स were allowed to sell the product. Agents were allowed to sell the product after paying tax to the state. After paying tax to the state. राज्य को कर देना है और फिर अपना प्रोडक्ट मार्केट में बेच देना है। तीसरा बात, इसको भी समझना आराम से। अगर एक आदमी 15 to 20 वर्कर्स के साथ 15 to 20 वर्कर्स के साथ एक आदमी 15 to 20 वर्कर्स के साथ अपना प्राइवेट इंडस्ट्री भी डेवलप कर सकता है। ठीक है, तो लिमिटेड नंबर में वर्कर एम्प्लॉय करने का बताया, इसी को प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी बोला जाता है। याद है आपको आजकल चलता है ना प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी, जो प्राइवेट लिमिटेड कंपनी, ये कॉन्सेप्ट मैंने डिराइव किया। इसमें क्या लिखेंगे आप? एन इंडिविजुअल with 15 to 20 workers, an individual with 15 to 20 workers can establish its own industry, An individual with 15 to 20 workers can establish its own industry. Industry. Private limited company. This is called private limited company. An individual with 15 to 20 workers can establish its own industry. Electrification was promoted. Equal pay for equal work. Equal pay for equal work. And then also for the working right. Caste system was abolished. Caste system. System. What? Equal pay for equal. And then also for the working right. Caste system was abolished. 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 Equal pay for equal work. तो मैंने काफी फंडामेंटल चेंज इंट्रोड्यूस किए थे और पर्सनल सोसाइटी को काफी इनलाइटेड सोसाइटी में कन्वर्ट किया था। पर्सनल सोसाइटी को चेंज कर दिया था मैंने। सो 1924 Lily died. 1924 Lily died. Lily died. 1924 Lily died. The contribution of Lily in understanding the Russian Revolution. Maybe the more famous in order to take two steps forward, one step back is necessary. In order to take two steps. Steve, steps forward. One step back is necessary in order to take. Steve, steps forward. Steps forward. One step back is necessary. One step back is necessary. In order to take two steps forward, one step back is necessary. In order to take two steps forward, one step back is necessary. In order to take two steps forward, one step back is necessary. स्टालिन। तो लेनिन के मरने के बाद स्टालिन जो है ना वो रशिया का प्रेसिडेंट बनता है। देखो बच्चे स्टालिन जो था ना वो क्या था तभी से लेनिन के साथ था। तो लेनिन को चाय पिलाता था। स्टालिन जो है ना लेनिन को चाय पिलाता था। इसलिए स्टालिन भी चाय वाला था। इस तरह की शुरुआत हुई। ठीक है। फ्रांस इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट और रशिया में मिक्स्ड इकोनॉमी। रशिया में और एजुकेशन पर काफी ज्यादा फोकस किया। In education, it was the prime important of the Russian economic development. ठीक है। skilled labor force create किया education के through. skilled labor force, skilled labor force develop किया education के through. Russia highly introduced with the skilled labor force. And second, community farming. Community farming. That is state cultivation. Cultivation under the guidance of state. Cultivation under the guidance of cultivation under the guidance of state. राज्य के द्वारा जो cultivation था उसे प्रोत्साहित किया गया. तो cultivation under the guidance of state. Community farming बोला जाता है. This was the effect of community farming. Cultivation under the guidance of state. और इस दोनों मेथड के चलते Russia was on the map of industrial world. Russia was on the map of industrial world. Russia was on the map of industrial world. इस दोनों के चलते Russia was on the map of industrial world. The contribution of Lenin and Stalin in making of Russian industrialization and the Russian revolution. Yes, reforms to Lenin. That was the outcome of the Russian revolutions. So new economic policy बहुत ही शानदार डिजाइन था जिसमें कि socialist मॉडल को स्टेट का है उसे काफी नया डायरेक्शन दिया गया स्टेट का socialist मॉडल है उसको एक नया डायरेक्शन प्रोवाइड किया इस समय के बाद जो हमारे काम करना शुरू करते हैं तो देखा हमने जो फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर के टाइम में वो कई सारे इंपॉर्टेंट इवेंट है तो एक इवेंट 1917 का हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया रशियन रिवॉल्यूशन में अब देखो वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद सबसे ज्यादा अगर कोई विकास था एकदम सब्जुगेटेड और सप्रेस था तो वो जर्मनी था जर्मनी की सॉवरेनिटी एकदम कॉम्प्रोमाइज हुई दिखा रहा हूँ और इतने पास दिखा रहा हूँ कोई नहीं बनाया कभी भी ऐसी जानकारी आपको दी नहीं सकती अगर हमारा लीवर खराब है तो आप इतना कोई नहीं बनाया कभी भी ऐसी जानकारी आपको दी नहीं सकती अगर हमारा लीवर खराब है तो आप इतना कोई नहीं बनाया कभी भी ऐसी जानकारी आपको दी नहीं सकती अगर हमारा लीवर खराब है तो आप इतना कोई नहीं बनाया Right. Passes. Passes. Right. Answer the right. Passes. Right. Answer the right. Passes. That is interwar period. Interwar period. मतलब दो इस युद्धों के बीच में कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट डिस्कशन है इंटरवॉर पीरियड जिसमें एक इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है राइट ऑफ आंसर एंड पासिंग और दूसरा इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है द ग्रेट इकोनॉमिक डिप्रेशन great economic depression. There are two main impacts of the which we consider the interwar period. Great economic depression. Great economic depression. देखो बच्चे ध्यान से सुनो मेरी बात एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट एग्जांपल बता रहा हूँ कि राइट ऑफ हिटलर हिटलर जो ना उसका उसका जन्म हुआ था ऑस्ट्रिया, राइट, और इन ऑस्ट्रिया, और वो भाग करके आ गया जर्मनी, born in Austria and he is migrated to Germany. So the government of Austria had removed Hitler from the citizenship, and Germany was yet to decide on the citizenship of Hitler. So frankly speaking, Hitler was citizen of no country. Hitler was citizen of no country. किसी भी देश का नागरिक नहीं था. हिटलर हीगल की फिलॉसफी से काफी इंस्पायर था. हिटलर का कहना था, state is the form of God, and ultimate sovereignty was there with the state. Ultimate sovereignty was there with the state. तो हिटलर जो है वो अल्ट्रा नेशनलिज्म बिलीव करता था. तो देखो मैं बताता हूँ स्टोरी क्या है. कि हिटलर ने वर्ल्ड वॉर में पार्टिसिपेट किया. अभी तक उसका सिटीजनशिप का इशू इन्वॉल्व भी नहीं हुआ है, क्लियर भी नहीं हुआ है. बहुत बहादुरी के साथ लड़ा था. हिटलर को हाईएस्ट गैलेंट्री अवार्ड मिला था, जिसको आयरन क्रॉस कहा जाता है. आयरन क्रॉस वाज द हाईएस्ट गैलेंट्री अवार्ड presented to Hitler. Gallantry award presented to Hitler. Highest gallantry award presented to Hitler. Iron Cross बोलते थे इसको. हिटलर जब घायल था और हॉस्पिटल में उसका इलाज चल रहा था, तभी ट्रीटी ऑफ वर्साई साइन हो गया. ट्रीटी ऑफ वर्साई साइन हो गया. और ट्रीटी ऑफ वर्साई के टेरिटोरियल प्रोविजन, इकोनॉमिक प्रोविजन, पॉलिटिकल प्रोविजन आप जानते हैं कितना डेंजरस था. तो हिटलर हॉस्पिटल में ही दूर से चिल्ला रहा था. और हिटलर ने बोला कि जर्मनी की वीक लीडरशिप जर्मनी की बदहाली के लिए जिम्मेदार है. जर्मनी की वीक लीडरशिप जर्मनी की बदहाली के लिए जिम्मेदार है. जर्मनी की वीक लीडरशिप जो है जर्मनी के ह्यूमिलिएशन के लिए जिम्मेदार है. ह्यूमिलिएशन के लिए जिम्मेदार है. तो हिटलर जब बाहर निकला, उसने एक पार्टी ज्वाइन की, जर्मन वर्कर्स पार्टी. और जर्मन वर्कर्स पार्टी जो था वो एक्चुअली लोगों के जो कम्युनिस्ट होता था उसकी स्पाई करता था. जर्मन वर्कर्स पार्टी कैपिटलिस्ट फंडेड था और वो कम्युनिस्ट में स्पाई करता था. किसी भी कम्युनिस्ट की मीटिंग में ये लोग घुस जाते थे और वहां से जानकारी हासिल कर लेते थे. तो हिटलर शुरुआत में कैपिटलिस्टों के फंड से आगे बढ़ा. बाद में हिटलर ने जर्मन वर्कर्स पार्टी को छोड़ के नाजी पार्टी ज्वाइन कर लिया, जिसे नेशनलिस्ट सोशलिस्ट पार्टी कहा जाता है. जिसे नेशनलिस्ट सोशलिस्ट पार्टी नाजी पार्टी कहा जाता है. उन्होंने अपनी नाजी पार्टी बनाई और उसने जनरल के साथ मिलकर के सत्ता को चेंज करने का प्रयास किया. सो वायलेंटली एक रिवॉल्यूशन के थ्रू सत्ता को चेंज करना चाहता था हिटलर. मगर उसकी कॉन्स्पिरेसी एक्सपोज हो गई और उसको गिरफ्तार किया. जब कॉन्स्पिरेसी एक्सपोज हो गई और वो गिरफ्तार हो गया, तो जेल में उसने अपनी बायोग्राफी लिखी, मेन कैप. और इस बायोग्राफी में उसने नाजी पार्टी के मैनिफेस्टो को प्रेजेंट किया. और नाजी पार्टी का मैनिफेस्टो जो था एक अल्ट्रा नेशनलिज्म को पॉइंट कर रहा था. सो राइट ऑफ क्लासेस में राइट ऑफ हिटलर. राइट ऑफ हिटलर. हिटलर born in Austria. Hitler born in Austria. Yes. But he migrated to Germany. But he migrated to Germany. Hitler born in Austria, but he migrated to Germany. Migrated to Germany. from citizenship. Removed Hitler from citizenship. And he was yet to solve the issue of citizenship. Yet to solve the issue of citizenship with Germany. Yet to solve the issue of citizenship with Germany. It was yet to solve the issue of citizenship with Germany. With Germany. Hitler participated in First World War. Hitler participated in First World War. He fought bravely and received the Iron Cross. And received the Iron Cross. He fought bravely and received the Iron Cross. He was under treatment in the hospital. He was under treatment in hospital. When Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles, when Germany when Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. When Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler was very much worried. Hitler was very much worried. Hitler was very much worried about the strength of leadership in Germany. Leadership in Germany. About the strength of leadership in Germany. He was very much worried about the strength of leadership in Germany. Hitler joined German Workers' Party. Joined German Workers' Party. German Workers' Party. He joined the German Workers' Party. The primary objective of this party. The primary objective of this party. The primary objective of this party was to spy the meeting of communists. Was to spy the meeting of communists. So Germany, so Hitler Hitler initially Germany Hitler initially got support from the capitalists. Hitler initially got support from capitalists. Got support from capitalists. Hitler left German Workers' Party. Hitler left the German Workers' Party and joined Nationalist Socialist Party. Which is called Nazi Party. Nationalist Socialist Party, that is Nazi Party. Nationalist Socialist Party, that is Nazi Party. of with the help of German with the help of German military commander. Hitler tried to topple the democratically elected government. Hitler tried to topple the democratically democratically elected government. Hitler tried to topple the democratically elected government. Democratically elected government. But his conspiracy was exposed. I think he was imprisoned. His conspiracy was exposed and he was imprisoned. Conspiracy was exposed and he was imprisoned. In jail itself, he wrote. In jail itself, he wrote. We can. His autobiography. We can describe the manifesto of Nazi Party. We describe the manifesto. We can. Describe the manifesto of Nazi Party. We describe the manifesto of Nazi Party. We describe the manifesto of Nazi Party. Describe the manifesto of Nazi Party. Manifesto of Nazi Party. Some of the high points of manifesto. Some of the high points. Manifesto. Seen you earlier. Demo. Right. So we yesterday started with our discussion of tsunami. Right. And I told you that how tsunami occurred. So how tsunami occurred? Tsunamis are the result of more often than not underwater earthquake. We'll be talking about other causes as well. But subsequent to reason for the occurrence of tsunami is underwater earthquake. As a result of underwater earthquake, water above that particular area will be displaced of the water that has been lifted up. But the energy that has lifted this particular water is not there for perpetuity. It is only for a few seconds. And that's why the water that has been lifted up will fall back. The result of its falling back, the water that has taken its space will be pushed towards coastal areas again. As a result of that, there will be the creation of some waves. Those waves have shorter wave height when they are there in deep waters. But as they approach coastal areas, as they approach land, due to features like, let's say, continental shelf, there will be increase in the wave height of those waves. And those waves, when they struck on coastal areas, we call those waves as tsunamis. Okay, so that is how tsunami operates. Tsunami is a term that is used in Japanese language, and this term मतलब है harbor waves. Tsunami मतलब क्या? Harbor waves. So tsunami is a term in Japanese language. इसका English meaning है harbor waves. ठीक है? So yesterday I left you with one doubt, let's say question. Question was, what can be the way of predicting occurrence of tsunamis based upon our discussion? So can you please tell me how we can predict tsunami? Yes. Based on yesterday's discussion, can you please tell me how we can predict tsunami? Wait, you were there yesterday. So that is one. See, seismography will tell you that earthquake has occurred in seas and oceans, but not every earthquake will lead to tsunami. Every underwater earthquake will not lead to tsunami. Right, so that may be a false, as we have discussed yesterday, that may be a false alarm. आपने वो false alarm बहुत बार दिया, जब real alarm आएगा लोग seriously नहीं लेंगे. And that's why you have to be careful while managing disasters. Yes. How we can predict tsunami? Right? After recede हो रहा है from the coastal area, right? From coastal, when that water is lifted up, from coastal area, water is receding to take space created by that lifted water. Acts as an indicator for the occurrence of tsunami. अगर underwater earthquakes है, which is followed by receding of water from coastal areas, that acts as an indicator for the occurrence of tsunami. ठीक है, जो पानी recede होगा, वो एक इंडिकेटर है फॉर द ऑकरेंस ऑफ सुनामी. अगर बहुत ज्यादा रिसीव हो रहा है, मे बी लेट्स से अराउंड 500 मीटर्स टू 1 किलोमीटर, कितना रिसीव हो गया पानी समंदर के अंदर, दैट मींस ह्यूज सुनामीज में ऑकर, क्योंकि वो जो पानी डिस्प्लेस हो जाएगा फिर से उसकी जगह की तरफ, इट विल बी ट्रैवलिंग विद द हेल्प ऑफ, इट विल बी ट्रैवलिंग इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ह्यूज वेव हाइट्स. राइट, सो दैट वुड बी इंडिकेटर फॉर द ऑकरेंस ऑफ सुनामी. ठीक है, आर यू एबल टू अंडरस्टैंड दिस? क्या इंडिकेटर हो सकता है? जो पानी लिफ्ट हो गया है, उसने स्पेस क्रिएट की है, उस स्पेस को भरने के लिए जब कोस्टल वाटर आएगा, दैट एक्ट्स एज एन इंडिकेटर फॉर द ऑकरेंस ऑफ सुनामी. क्लियर एवरीवन? राइट, सो दैट इज व्हाट इज सुनामी. सो लेट्स डिस्कस अबाउट सुनामीज. अभी मोस्टली इट इज लिखने वाला पार्ट. तो डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट वी आर डिस्कसिंग. We're discussing about disaster management. Means under that tsunami. Like if you want harbor waves. Harbor waves. Definition. Definition. Right now definition. Dictating right now. Tsunami is a series of waves. Tsunami is a series of waves with huge wave height, comma, which is not related to ordinary ocean tides, and waves generated by winds. In a छोड़ के, right, we are not taking into account tides, we are not taking into account waves that are normally generated in seas and oceans. What we are taking into account is extremely high wave heights that we are taking into account when we talk about tsunami. ठीक है, जब हम लोग tsunami के बारे में बात करते हैं, what we exclude two things. Exclude two things. एक, tides हम exclude करते हैं. Tides are not tsunamis. And secondly, we also exclude waves generated by winds. Winds also lead to generation of waves. They are not taken into account when we talk about tsunami. Here, right, so that is what is the definition. Next, instances. Have you witnessed tsunami in India? Yes or no? When? No? 2004. Right, so Indian Ocean. Tsunami. Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. Right? Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. And one more example, which is not related to India, but you should be aware of it. Japanese tsunami of 2011. And this tsunami has led to a disaster called as Fukushima nuclear disaster. Okay? These two are the major examples of tsunami that we have in the recent past. Right, so Fukushima nuclear disaster. So what happened during this particular tsunami? In the coastal areas of Japan, there was a nuclear power plant called as Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. So उस Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant में tsunami waves का पानी enter होगा, and that led to radioactivity in that water. Whatever water entered from tsunami, that entered into the core of nuclear reactor, and as a result of that, huge water became radioactive. Right, वो पूरा plant test हो गया था, and that water became a liability for Japan. Right, I think this that this water that was in this particular nuclear power plant, Japan got rid of the radioactive nuclear water by putting it into Pacific Ocean. ये पॉइंट हमने डिस्कस किया था in radioactive pollution of water. ठीक है, so that is what are the instances. Next, causes. What are the causes of tsunami? We have already discussed underwater earthquake. That is the major cause. Underwater earthquake. But apart from this, it also occurs because of underwater landslide. Underwater landslide. It may also occur because of underwater volcanic eruptions. And the rare instances are also because of meteorite impact on seas or oceans. Meteorite impact on seas and oceans. Meteorite means, so you must be aware of meteoroids. Meteoroids are the let's say parts or are the celestial bodies that we have in space. Right? So after if they get let's say close to the Earth's atmosphere, they get converted into meteors. Meteors को ही हम shooting star कहते हैं. Right? If that meteor survives Earth's atmosphere, it may strike Earth's surface, and that part of the meteoroid that strikes Earth's surface we call as meteorites. Right? तीन term है meteoroids, मतलब जो celestial bodies है, meteors मतलब जो shooting star है, and then the part that strikes Earth's surface is meteoroids. Okay, so that is what are the causes. Next, impacts. Impacts. Impacts of tsunami. एक line लिखना impacts. I know one line. At the coast. At the coast. Tsunami waves release at the coast. The coast. Tsunami waves release enormous amount of energy. Enormous amount of energy. And water flows and water flows turbulently. Water flows turbulently, violently, turbulently on the land. On the land. Causing destruction. Causing destruction. Okay. So what can be the destruction? So this is one of the pictures related to destruction caused by tsunami. Okay. So सारा जो coastal area में infrastructure होगा, it would be affected very badly because of tsunami. 2004 when we witnessed tsunami in India, it also struck Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka में भी उसने struck किया था, and there was one stadium called as Galle Stadium. You must have heard about it. Galle Stadium, cricket stadium it was. It also got affected because of tsunami. Okay, so we will write the impacts. First, loss of life, livelihood, and displacement. Loss of life, livelihood, and displacement. Next, impact on economic activities. Impact on economic activities. What kind of economic activities? Ports are damaged. Fishing nets are damaged. Next, tourism decline because of these kind of events. Tourism decline. Fishing nets are also damaged. Okay, so as a result of this, there will be impact on the economic activities in coastal areas. Next, impact on infrastructure. Impact on infrastructure. Especially this impact is on resorts, hotels, then power transmission lines, if any, etc. Impact would be on infrastructure in the form of resorts, hotels, ET lines, power transmission lines would also be affected. Okay. Next impact affects environment. How environment would be affected because of tsunamis? First and the major impact would be increased salinity in coastal areas. Right? There would be increase in salinity in coastal areas. अगर उस coastal area में let's say agricultural land है तो उसे ज़्यादा नुकसान होगा because of tsunamis. Right? Then coastal erosion would occur. As a result of coastal erosion, what will happen? There will be loss of land. Some land we will lose because of tsunamis. More destruction of coastal forest, mangroves, etc. Coastal forest, mangroves would be affected negatively because of tsunamis. Fine. So these are the impacts that we will be able to highlight. Any other like that you can think of. One more, spread of waterborne diseases. Spread of waterborne diseases. Okay, that is what is the impact of tsunami on coastal areas. Any other that you can think of? No? Right, next. Next mitigation initiatives. Mitigation initiatives by the government. How government right now is trying to reduce the impact of tsunamis. How government is trying to reduce the impact of tsunamis. Try to understand. First, now these are the points that you will have to write. First, identification of vulnerable areas. Identification of vulnerable areas. Vulnerable areas. Identification of vulnerable areas. Under that, RNCOIS. RNCOIS, that is Indian National Center for Ocean Information Services. Ocean Information Services. INCOIS. कहाँ पे है? Where is this center? Hyderabad. Right? INCOIS is there in Hyderabad. So continue. INCOIS releases inundation maps. Releases inundation maps of areas that could be affected by tsunami. Areas that could be affected by tsunami. ठीक है? That's what is the work INCOIS will do. इस एरिया में ज्यादा पानी आ सकता है, ज्यादा पानी बढ़ सकता है. That area will be identified by INCOIS. So you will be able to, let's say, focus your efforts on those areas where more inundation may occur during tsunami. ठीक है? So एक box बनाना है. Heading is INCOIS. एक box heading is INCOIS. INCOIS. Under that, Autonomous Institute under MOES and Autonomous Institute. Institute under MOES. Next, it gives information about first, gives information about first waves alert, high waves alert. Second, tsunami and storm surge alert. Tsunami and storm surge alert. Next, ocean state forecast. Ocean state forecast. Ocean state forecast. Right, so this kind of information is given by INCOIS. Next point. It also provides oil spill advisory. It also provides oil spill advisory. And information about marine heat waves. Okay. So INCOIS is an extremely important let's say center to have information about all these things, right? ये हमें high waves के बारे में alert देगा. It will also give us alert with respect to tsunami. It will also give us alert with respect to oil spill. Oil spill advisory भी INCOIS से मिलती है, and at the same time heat waves alert, marine heat waves alert are also given by this institute. Right? So you may close that box. It is INCOIS under Ministry of Earth Sciences. ठीक है. जब मान लेते आप कभी हैदराबाद में जैसे IPS बनेंगे कुछ लोग, तो हैदराबाद में ही ट्रेनिंग होती है आप लोगों की. So whenever you travel from Hyderabad airport to the Hyderabad city, लेफ्ट साइड में जाते समय लेफ्ट साइड में you will be able to see a fish shaped building. एक फिश के आकार की बिल्डिंग आपको दिखाई देगी. That is INCOIS. ठीक है. So that is first step that government has taken. We get the information about the vulnerable areas from INCOIS. ठीक है. First, second. Tsunami Early Warning Center. Indian Tsunami Early Warning Center. Indian Tsunami Early Warning Center. ITEWC. Abbreviation है ITEWC. Bracket ITEWC. Indian Tsunami Early Warning Center. Under that. Under that. Third point क्या था INCOS के अंदर? Ocean for tsunamis, is it possible? Right? The thing that we have discussed in the initial, let's say, part of our discussion. कहाँ पे ये center? Again, INCOS. So at INCOIS. Is located at INCOIS. Located at INCOIS. Yes. Next. It provides real-time tsunami alerts. It provides real-time tsunami alerts to India, and 25 Indian Ocean countries. And 25 Indian Ocean countries. Okay, so early warning is not only provided to India by ITEWC, it is also provided to other countries in Indian Ocean region. Okay, so this is one of the important centers for the management of tsunami for entire Indian Ocean region. Next third initiative. The National Institute of Ocean Technology. The National Institute of Ocean Technology. NIOT. National Ocean Technology. NIOT. National Institute for Ocean Technology. कहाँ पे है ये? NIOT. It is there in Chennai. Right? So the way we have, let's say, various national institutes, ये भी एक important institute है, especially working in the field of ocean technology. Right? Under that, NIOT has designed and tested an underwater tsunami buoy. An underwater tsunami buoy. BUOY. Underwater tsunami buoy. Right, so let me show you buoys. These are buoys. Right, so these have been designed and tested by NIOT. It is especially tested for tsunami. Right, so आपने ये देखा होगा, it is also used for marking locations. Right, in seas and oceans, to mark locations, these kind of devices are used. But at the same time, we can put sensors in them so that we will be able to get understanding about the occurrence of earthquakes and thereafter tsunamis. Okay, so that is the purpose of these buoys that have been developed by NIOT. Under that it helps in India's tsunami early warning and coastal safety systems. Okay, so that is third important measure that we have taken. As a result of this kind of device, we get help in the early warnings related to tsunamis. Right? Next, fourth, structural measures. Apart from these initiatives, we have also taken some structural measures. What kind of? Under that, coastal protection through mangrove restoration in the eastern coast of India. Restoration in the eastern coast of India. Okay, so what we have done, we have carried out protection of mangroves or restoration of mangroves for coastal protection. Mangroves acts as a shield for the surges related to tsunami. Imagine that in a particular coastal area we have presence of mangroves. और उस कोस्टल एरिया में सुनामी वेव्स आ रही. So can these mangroves act as a kind of obstacle for these waves before these waves hit the areas where human beings are living? Right. So that's why we can say that these mangroves act as a bioshield. Right. Mangroves क्या act करते हैं? They act as a bioshield. And that's why we are trying to protect these mangroves, especially in eastern coast. Why eastern coast? Why not western coast? ये मत कहना कि western coast पे mangroves नहीं है. Not the case. We do have mangroves even in the western coast. Why eastern coast? Why eastern coast? That is correct because eastern coast is more prone to the occurrence of tsunamis. But why? Why? Okay, but you also have to think. You also have to read on your own because eastern coast is near to plate boundaries. The eastern coast नजदीक है plate boundaries के. That's why more occurrence of let's say earthquakes, underwater earthquakes we see in that particular part. Eastern coast में होता है. और इसी वजह से even in 2004 we have seen tsunami on the eastern coast. There was no impact on the western coast of India due to the tsunami of 2004. Eastern coast was affected. Why eastern coast? Because it is nearer to plate boundaries. इसी वजह से वहाँ पे earthquake ज़्यादा होंगे. Earthquake ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं मतलब tsunami आने का chance भी ज़्यादा eastern coast. ठीक है, that's why mangroves are given let's say protection, especially in the eastern coast. इसके लिए हमने एक scheme launch की थी called as Mishti scheme. Mishti scheme. So this scheme is for conservation of mangroves in India. ठीक है, so bracket में लिख लीजिए for this there is a scheme called as Mishti. Okay, so that is first initiative that we have taken under structural initiatives. One more point I would like to add here. One more point. Then, so what we are doing, we are taking help of mangroves. So mangroves act as bio shield. Now, with the help of these mangroves, with the help of this, let's say, component of ecology, we are trying to reduce the impact of disaster. And that's why this approach is also called as eco-DRR. It's also called as eco-DRR. What is DRR? Disaster risk reduction. So eco-DRR is, let's say, we can ensure with the help of conservation of mangroves. Eco-DRR, ecology-based disaster risk reduction. Next. Continue on the structural measures. Structural measures में पहला है mangrove का conservation. Under that second. Sea walls in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Sea walls have been built in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Next. Shelter for evacuated people. Next. Shelter for evacuated people. Shelter for evacuated people. We have also built shelters for evacuated people in the coastal areas. Okay, right? One more. Infrastructure regulation in coastal areas. Infrastructure regulation in coastal areas. Can you please tell me which rules help us regulate infrastructure in coastal areas? CRZ rules. Like CRZ rules of 2019 help us regulate infrastructure in coastal areas. I told you that from high tide line up to 500 meters, these rules are applicable. Right? थोड़ा सा revise करना पड़ेगा आपको. Based on this, we will be able to regulate infrastructure. Right? Then CRZ 1, 2, 3, 4, all those things we have also discussed in our discussion of environment. याद है? आप तो भी नहीं भी याद है आपको? Online. See, one clarification. See, ये जो point है, ideally this should be considered as a non-structural measure. Right? Ideally this should be considered as a non-structural measure, but for your understanding, you can write it there. अगर आपको लिखना है bracket में लिख सकते हो. It is a non-structural measure. Next. Fifth, community awareness and capacity building. Community awareness and capacity building. Under that, signboards showing tsunami evacuation routes. Showing tsunami evacuation routes. ठीक है? तो अगर सुनामी वार्निंग आती है, सुनामी के लिए साइलेंस वगैरह भेजते हैं, तो see it will be very difficult for people to, because panic situation, right? It is a panic situation, and that's why people will be running here and there. So to direct them appropriate to the appropriate locations, to direct them to the, let's say, cyclone shelters या tsunami shelters, वहाँ पे sign boards होते हैं. So those have been let's say established by various government authorities, especially SDMA authorities have established these kind of sign boards. Fine. So these measures have been taken. This is the fifth one. Next, sixth one. India is a part of Indian Ocean tsunami warning and mitigation center. Indian Ocean tsunami warning and mitigation center. Okay. India is a part of Indian Ocean tsunami warning and mitigation center. So see, in 2004, not only India but entire Indian Ocean region countries were affected because of tsunami. That's why regional initiative was taken in 2004, and that regional initiative is this. In 2004, this initiative has been taken, and through this initiative, we are trying to, let's say, give early warning. We are trying to implement some mitigation measures for the management of tsunamis in a better way. Right? So, ये 2004 में regional initiative लिया गया था. India is a part of this. Right? So, under that one point, you should write under that. Established in year 2004. One more. It provides regional tsunami monitoring, warning, mitigation measures for all countries. Mitigation measures for all countries. Mitigation measures for all countries in Indian Ocean region. Okay? So that is sixth initiative India is a part of this particular set. Seventh and last. Post-disaster management. Under that, NDRF and SDRF. Post-disaster management. Under that, NDRF and SDRF carry out rapid damage assessment and ensure implementation of tsunami relief code. ठीक है? तो tsunami relief code कान में का निकाल दीजिए, फिर सुनाई देगा. Tsunami relief code कान में भी चाहिए, और इसे कैसे चलेगा? So tsunami relief code and post-disaster assessment is carried out by SDRF and NDRF. Okay, because we have to make sure that whatever life that has been disturbed in coastal areas is restored back, it is brought back on track. Right? So for that we have this kind of tsunami relief code as here. क्या दिखा आप लोगों ने? Bold. Next. Next. So these are the initiatives that we have taken. Indian guidelines. For tsunami management in India. NDMA guidelines for the management of tsunami in India. Okay, so this is also a theoretical aspect, so आपको लिखना है इसमें. देखिए. एक मिनट का टाइम नहीं है आज. Under that, first, NDMA recommends, NDMA recommends assessment of vulnerability, assessment of vulnerability, mapping of risk, mapping of risk in coastal areas, in coastal areas, based on land use maps, land use maps, and coastal bathymetry, land use maps and coastal bathymetry. What is coastal bathymetry? It is a kind of science that is related to understand depth of oceans, right? Depth in and around coastal areas, and at the same time to know the features that we have in the coastal areas. Right? What is bathymetry? Bathymetry से हमें क्या पता चलता है? First, we get information about depth. Right? उस एरिया में कितना deep पानी है? That understanding we can get from bathymetry, coastal bathymetry. One more understanding we can get from bathymetry is features in the coastal waters or in coastal areas. Features present in coastal areas, that information also we can get from bathymetry. Right? What say features? Which features are we talking about? We are talking about, is there any presence of, let's say, coral reef ecosystem? Right? उस coastal area में when you are carrying out coastal bathymetry, you get the information about depth. अगर बहुत ज़्यादा depth होगी तो tsunami waves height कम होगी. Why? Because obstruction कम. If you remember, why height increases as these waves approach coastal area? It is primarily increasing because of the features like continental shelf. तो अगर डेप्थ ज्यादा है तो ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन कम है, एंड एज ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन इज लेसर वी विल बी हैविंग लेसर वेव हाइट इन द कोस्टल एरिया. राइट? सिमिलरली अगर फीचर्स लाइक लेट्स से कोरल रीफ है या कोस्टल सैंड ड्यून्स जैसे फीचर्स है, तो ऑब्वियसली जो वेव्स आने वाली है उनका इंपैक्ट कम होगा ऑन द कोस्टल हैबिटेशन. सो all that understanding we have to take into account along with land use pattern in the coastal areas. Land use pattern क्यों करने हैं? क्यों we have to consider, why we have to factor in land use patterns as well? Because अगर उस एरिया में land use is there in the form of, let's say, tourism, right? Resorts है, hotels है, cafes है. अगर ऐसा land use है, obviously footprint will be more, footprint of people will be more, and you'll have to take steps accordingly. Right? वो एरिया ज्यादा vulnerable होगा than the areas where we do not have any kind of human presence, or mostly वो, let's say, uninhabited coastal area. So you have to decide your priorities when you carry out profiling of disasters. तो उस एरिया में जहाँ पे land use is there in the form of human activities, आप ज्यादा फोकस करो. That is what is the utility of land use, coastal land use, and then bathymetry. इन दोनों को account करके you have to come up with maps. You have to understand which areas are more vulnerable to the occurrence of tsunamis and which areas have more risk of damage when tsunami occurs. Clear? So that is what is recommended by India. Second, tsunami preparedness should be carried out based on tsunami preparedness should be carried out based on tsunami bulletins, breaking news, tsunami bulletins, warning system, and public awareness campaigns. And so that is also suggested by NDMA that we should prepare for the occurrence of tsunamis. Can we stop tsunamis? Can we prevent tsunamis? Yes. How we can prevent tsunamis? Prevent will have to prepare for the occurrence of tsunami, right? And that's why NDMA has focused on preparation for the occurrence of tsunami. Okay, next third point. NDMA has recommended for the occurrence of tsunami. आने के chances ज़्यादा है. Tsunami is a secondary disaster occurring because of events that is also suggested by NDMA that we should prepare for the occurrence of tsunamis. Can we stop tsunamis? Can we prevent bulletins? News, breaking news. Tsunami bulletins, warning system, and public awareness campaigns. So that is also suggested by NDMA that we should prepare for the occurrence of tsunamis. Can we stop tsunamis? Can we prevent tsunamis? Yes, how we can prevent tsunamis? Prevent कैसे करें? Can we prevent tsunamis? No. See, we cannot prevent earthquake. And this is a secondary disaster. Tsunami is a secondary disaster occurring because of events more often than not like earthquake. तो अगर earthquake आता है तो tsunami आने के chances ज़्यादा है. As we are not able to prevent earthquake, we won't be able to prevent the occurrence of tsunami. That's why what we will have to do, we'll have to prepare for the occurrence of tsunami. Right? And that's why NDMA has focused on preparation for the occurrence of tsunami. Okay? Next, third point. NDMA has recommended various structural measures. Like under that, first, construction of cyclone shelters. Yes, cyclone shelters only. Why? Cyclone shelters. You see what is more frequent, cyclones or tsunami? Cyclones is an annual affair. Instead of saying annual, वो आप 6 month भी बोल सकते हैं. Right? Every year we have occurrence of cyclone. हर साल 2-3 तो आ ही जाते हैं. Right? 2 ज़्यादा ईस्टर्न कोस्ट पे, 3 कभी-कभी वेस्टर्न कोस्ट पे आ जाते हैं. Right? So obviously अगर coastal areas में cyclones का occurrence ज़्यादा है, tsunami is a rare event, then obviously people should be rescued in both the events like cyclones and shelters. And that's why often वो जो shelters होते हैं उन्हें कहा जाता है cyclone shelters.
in coastal areas, we also have to give training to fishermen, right? Because they venture in, let's say, seas and oceans. So they may be at the risk when these kind of events occur. If they are not risk directly, if they are not in risk directly, it may be the case that they would be affected because of the damage that would be caused by tsunamis in coastal areas. For example, their boats would be affected significantly. तो उन्हें and local administration को हमें train करना होगा, for which mock drills should be carried out. So we'll be able to ensure that इन्हें भी SOPs के बारे में जानकारी, SOPs, standard operating procedures, right? See, response has to be scientific. और वो scientific response तभी आएगा जब आप train करोगे mock drills carry out. Otherwise, response, otherwise जो response होगा, that would be very haphazard, which may increase the loss. That's why we will have to make sure that these sections of the society are also trained properly. Here, so that is what is NDMA guidelines with respect to management of tsunamis in India. Next, way forward. Last point, way forward. बताइए कुछ points way forward के. Yes. What can we do in way forward? The warning system तो है. और कितना early चाहिए? Yes. What we can do? The most important thing that we can do is to learn from tribal people. When in 2004 tsunamis occurred, it also affected Andaman and Nicobar. We thought that tribal people living in Andaman and Nicobar, like let's say Shonkians and all, we thought that they must have wiped out because of these kind of events, tsunami 2004. But it was surprising that they were still alive in that particular area, which was affected by tsunamis in a very harsh manner. So we have to learn from these people what kind of, let's say, method they are using in order to protect themselves from the occurrence of tsunamis. That is what is called as traditional knowledge. So traditional knowledge of tribal people will have to incorporate whenever we come up with, let's say, plans for the management of tsunamis. So you can write incorporation of traditional knowledge. On the basis of traditional knowledge, you will be able to reduce the damage. No, because often it has been seen that traditional knowledge has an element of mysticism as well. Right? It has an element of mysticism as well. That's why उस traditional knowledge से सिर्फ ऐसे ही aspects हमें लेने हैं जो scientific हो, right? जो workable है. Otherwise कुछ mystic aspects भी है जो हमें eliminate करने हैं. And that's why it is not that only on the basis of traditional knowledge we will be able to save ourselves, save people in coastal areas. That has to be in association with scientific understanding. Again, that's why we are writing it as well. Next, use of AI in AWS. Use of AI in AWS. Next, ban on, this is very important, ban on coastal sand mining. Ban on coastal sand mining. Ban should be there on coastal sand mining. क्या होगा इससे? See, sand dunes. Coastal sand mining में क्या mine करते हैं? Sand mining करते हैं. So sand is let's say taken away from coastal sand dunes. Coastal sand dunes मतलब जो थोड़ा सा ऐसा upland hilly type से, not hilly exactly, but थोड़ा सा upland वाला area होता है coastal areas. पे sand का presence होता है. So those areas are used for sand mining by these people. We have to ban those kind of activities. Why? Because अगर sand mining हुई coastal area से, we are removing a kind of buffer. A kind of buffer is getting removed. And अगर वो buffer नहीं रहा, तो जो tsunami waves आने वाली वो directly coastal areas की तरफ चलेगी. So that buffer we need to protect, for which we will have to ban sand mining, coastal sand. It is there, coastal sand mining is being banned in India, but obviously there is lack of enforcement of coastal sand. Okay, so that we can suggest. And lastly, disaster insurance. So these are the let's say things that we can suggest as way forward for the management of tsunami. Any other point that you can recommend? Any other point? Huh? Digital twin. Okay, you can make. But digital twin for these kind of areas is very difficult. You don't know exactly कहाँ पे tsunami है. That's why it's very difficult to implement it. Any other point that you can suggest? No, इतने ही आपके पास भी. ठीक है, point. Next is, so we are done with this. So this is what is the coastal wall that we have referred. एक structural measure हमने लिखा था coastal wall in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. So this is what is coastal wall. ठीक है. So this acts as a kind of barrier for the onslaughts of tsunami surges. Next disaster that we will discuss is landslides. Next heading आप देख सकते हो, landslides. Next heading is landslides. क्या हुआ? Landslide नहीं नजर आ रहा है? बारिश हो रही है वहाँ पे, इसीलिए छाता दिया. तो बारिश हो रही है, छाता भी ना ले हुआ. Landslide. Definition. Write down the definition. That it is a geological phenomenon. It is a geological phenomenon that includes collapse of a hillside. That includes collapse of a hillside. एक पार्ट हिल का collapse हो जाता है. the movement of a mass of rocks, debris, or earth or एक part हिल का collapse हो जाए. And the movement of a mass of rocks, debris, or earth mass of rocks, debris, or earth down the slope. Movement of mass of rocks, debris, or earth down the slope. This event is called as landslide. ठीक है, landslide मतलब it is a geological phenomenon. Geological phenomenon means related to rocks, right? Related to rocks. This phenomenon is related to rocks, wherein what happens? A part of hillside may collapse. Right? You must have seen. It's not that only rocks will, let's say, flow under the influence of gravity when landslide occurs. It may be the case that कोई part hill का collapse हो जाए. That event also is considered as a part of landslide. ठीक है? So that is what is the definition. Next, instances. There are a number of instances of landslides that we have. For example, Uttarakhand landslide in 2025. Next, Vaishno Devi Shrine landslide 23 in 2023. Sorry, in 25 itself. 2025 itself. And one more, and very important, Wayanad landslide. ये 2023 में Wayanad landslide 2020. ठीक है, so these are some instances. Where is Wayanad? Kerala. कहाँ पे? Not in UP, it's there in Kerala. ठीक है, Kerala में है. And this was the severe most landslide that we have witnessed in the recent past. क्यों? क्योंकि it led to loss of more than 250 people. Right? Or this landslide was not only a landslide, it was in association with mud flow. Landslide is, let's say, movement of debris of rocks, earth, etc. But what is mud flow? Mud flow is very similar to landslide, but in case of mud flow, water-saturated soil particles will move down the slope. That event is called as mud flow. और अगर mud flow होता है, down the slope जो भी residential area है, वो पूरा mud से भर. So houses in the recent. ठीक है. Next, area vulnerable. Landslides. Area vulnerable to landslides. So this is the area that is vulnerable to landslides in India. तो कोई सी जगह छोड़ दीजिए, घर पे जाके ये मैप ड्रॉ करना है आप. Then let's say highlight this particular area. So which area is vulnerable to landslides? Himalayan states, northeastern states, including Sikkim, and then Western Ghats. And partly we also have, let's say, part in and around Odisha के आसपास भी एक part है जो vulnerable. Yeah, instead of saying Odisha, central Indian hills are also vulnerable to landslide during monsoon season. ठीक है, so major कौन सा एरिया है? Himalayan states and northeastern states and western states. ठीक है, ये लिख लीजिए नाम, important है सारे. So ठीक है, ये short में लिखिए. Himalayan states first, Himalayan states. Second, northeastern states, Himalayan states, northeastern states. Third, Western Ghats. Okay, so next is causes. What are the causes of landslide? The most important cause is availability of weathered rock material. Availability of weathered rock material is the most important component that we need for the occurrence of landslide. Right? अगर ये component होगा available, especially slopes पे, तो landslide आने के chances ज़्यादा. Next. Now, if this kind of material is there, then what we need apart from this? Apart from this, we need a trigger factor. इसे trigger कौन करे? Right? इससे बहने के लिए, वहाँ से flow होने के लिए trigger कौन करे? So trigger factors are like earthquake, intense rainfall, drifting cultivation, Construction activities. Construction activities. Rainfall के यहाँ पे आप melting of glaciers भी add कर दीजिए, melting of glaciers, because that also adds water. Melting of glaciers. Deforestation and mining. Deforestation and mining. And lastly, land use change. Lastly, land use change. These are the causes that are leading to landslides in India. So, earthquakes. Earthquakes make Himalayan states vulnerable to landslides. Himalayan and northeastern states are vulnerable to the occurrence of earthquake. That's why landslides. Next, intense rainfall is a cause in Western Ghats and northeastern states. Glaciers, especially in Himalayan states. Glaciers, especially in Himalayan states. Shifting cultivation, कहाँ पे practice होता है? Where is shifting cultivation practiced in India? It is more in northeastern states. In northeastern states, it is also called as the activity of jumming, right? Jum cultivation. Jumming is also a term that is used for shifting cultivation. Construction activities कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है? कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है construction activities? It is northeast, primarily northeast. You must be aware that area under forest in northeastern states is reducing, and one of the major reasons for that is construction activity. So northeast prime है, along with that Himalayas and Western Ghats as well. Himalayan states में और Western Ghats में भी ये activity landslide को promote करती है. Region is northeast. Risk था, उसे convert करके हम लोग उसे, let's say we are concretizing it, we are using that land for some construction activities like road, railways, etc. Hydropower, etc. So all those are the causes for the occurrence of landslides. Here, fine. Next. Shifting cultivation is a practice wherein suppose there is a patch of land. That patch of land is cleared. It will be used for the activity of cultivation, right? It will be used for the activity of cultivation till the time it is productive. Once productivity of that patch of land reduces, people will move to some other patch of forest. Right? So क्या हो रहा है? Deforestation. So deforestation will make soil loose, and that's why there will be more chance of occurrence of landslide in those areas. So that's why shifting cultivation is also one of the causes of landslides. Next is impact. Next is impacts. Loss of life and habitation. Loss of life and habitation, causing displacement. Next, destruction of infrastructure. After that, you can write some points. Destruction of infrastructure. Under that, blockages of roads. When landslide occurs, roads would be blocked. Blockages of roads. Some points. Section of infrastructure. Under that, blockages of roads. When landslide occurs, roads would be blocked. Blockages of roads. Next, impact on hydropower stations. Because generally hydropower stations कहाँ पे होते हैं? Hilly areas में. And landslide भी कहाँ पे होता है? Hilly areas में. And that's why if landslide occur, there would be impact on in hydropower projects as well. One more, affects power transmission lines. And so that is what is destruction of infrastructure. Next, third, impact on economic activities. Economic activities. कौन से? Most important is tourism. Right? Most important economic activity that could be affected is tourism. क्यों? क्योंकि अगर रोड कनेक्टिविटी बर्बाद हो गई, रोड कनेक्टिविटी खराब हो गई, पावर ट्रांसमिशन लाइंस खराब हो गए, obviously people will not be able to reach in that particular area. अगर roads को प्रॉब्लम हुआ, you can imagine the time it must be taking to reconstruct those roads, because we are talking about hilly areas. Next, impact on environment. Fourth is impact on environment. किस प्रकार से environment में impact होता है? Soil. Soil erosion, ठीक है, soil erosion. Any other? Landslide, can it lead to divergence of rivers? Can it lead to divergence of rivers? Yes. And if rivers are getting diverted, can it lead to floods in an area where earlier no floods were there? Right? So जो भी environment होगा, जो भी forest होगा उस area में वो disrupt हो जाएगा. So write down this point. It leads to changes in course of rivers. It leads to changes in course of rivers, causing floods. Changes in the course of rivers causing floods. ठीक है? That's also the impact. One more last impact, 5 या 6 जो भी number है. It leads to secondary disasters as well. It leads to secondary disasters as well. Like TLOF. Like GLOF and mud flow. And mud flow. Mud flow. Okay, GLOF we have discussed yesterday. In detail we have talked about GLOF. I hope you understand how landslide may trigger GLOF. वो जो glacial lake था वो burst हो सकता है अगर उस एरिया में लैंडस्लाइड हो. ठीक है. And what is mud flow? This is mud. ठीक है. So this is the picture of Wayanad itself. So Wayanad में ये हुआ. Next. Government initiatives. Government initiatives for mitigation of landslides. Government initiatives for mitigation of landslides. What actions, what steps have been taken by the government? First, mapping. First is mapping of vulnerable areas. Under that. National. Mapping के अंदर लिखना है national. Landslide. Susceptibility. National landslide susceptibility mapping. National landslide susceptibility mapping. It's done by the GSI. GSI, Geological Survey of India. GSI. It is done by GSI. In brackets of points for GSI. GSI के लिए 2 point. Formed in 1851. Headquartered at कहाँ पे headquarter इसका? कोलकाता. Headquartered at कोलकाता. किस मिनिस्ट्री के अंदर है? Ministry of Mines. One point. It is a nodal institute. It is a nodal agency instead of institute. It is a nodal agency for landslides management in India. For landslides management in India. ठीक है? So that is what is the mapping that is done by GSI. Mapping के अंदर एक और point. Landslide atlas of India. Landslide atlas of India. Developed by ISRO. ISRO has developed landslide atlas. of GSI. Mapping के अंदर एक management in India. ठीक है? So that is what is the mapping that is done by GSI. Mapping के अंदर एक और point. Landslide atlas of India. Developed by ISRO. ISRO has developed landslide atlas of India. तो ये जो मैप हमने देखा था, that is a part of that landslide atlas. So वो ISRO का ही. ठीक है? So mapping के अंदर 2 initiatives है. One is this, and second is landslide atlas developed by ISRO. Second point. Early warning system.